really allowed by the data, which is about 5 to 7,000 BC. And I take the most, I guess, the radical view, but seems to me, in a sense, the most plausible. And again, it's following the Egyptians themselves when they're talking about 34 or 36,000 years. I think that's what it is. But there's a lot of reason to think that the ancients, very, very ancients, knew about the precession of the equinoxes and the shifts of ages, you know, that goes, we're now at the end of the age of Pisces and coming into the age of Aquarius. And there's plenty of good reason to think that this knowledge of precession goes back into deep, deep antiquity. So if the Sphinx is actually intended as a Leo marker, it only gives you a couple of choices, because the last age of Leo is around 10,000, 10,500 BC. This is the date chosen by Beauval and Hancock for dating the Sphinx, because everything else aligns. And then if you add to that the probability that the Sphinx is looking at its own image in the sky when it rises against the sun at the equinox, you've again got this 10,500 date. The problem with that date, as far as I'm concerned, is that in paleoclimatology, you know, and this is, nobody disagrees with this, that the whole Earth is in chaos at that time, following the breakup of the Ice Age, which happens around 12,000 BC for reasons no one is quite sure. Schock's written a very good book called Voices of the Rocks, where it's a kind of a state-of-the-art statement on catastrophe theory. So everybody knows that this catastrophe took place. No one's sure why. That's when all the woolly mammoths died and the woolly rhinoceroses, you know, all the mass extinctions are called the quaternary extinctions. All this took place. So, in my way of thinking, building all of this incredible stuff requires a long settled and stable civilization. You don't just build things like this in the midst of a worldwide, global, chaotic situation where there are earthquakes all over the place and huge floods and everything's unstuck. So, but nevertheless, the star alignments work for that 10,500 date. But because of these various, let's say, these mitigating factors, I don't like that date. But the only other choice is to push it back another full precessional cycle, which is effectively 26,000 years. That gives you 26,000, that gives you 36,000 BC, which corresponds to the Egyptian texts themselves. So even though it looks outrageous, particularly to an academic, to me, it's the more plausible of the possible scenarios, and it just remains to be seen, you know, if we're able to actually date this thing.
The age of Leo marks the beginning point of the vast celestial cycles known as the precession of the equinoxes. The Sphinx, as the marker of Leo, demonstrates a knowledge of complex celestial mechanics and the observation of phenomena spanning tens of thousands of years. Evidence of Egypt's inheritance of a massive body of knowledge, both material and esoteric,